Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladin Journal. This is AJ, and today we're going to talk about a topic that has been ringing in the back of mind for a while. Today's feature is Primaris Marines, and we're going to talk a little bit about their past, their present, and the future that I see going forward. Now, the Primaris Marines are a new generation of Astartes who were created by the Archmagus Belisarius Cawl under orders from the risen Primarch Robotic Gilliman. Now, I know that's a lot of information to throw out at you guys, but don't worry, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background, and we're going to set the scene a little bit right after this jump. And so, dear viewer, we come to the background about the Primaris Marines. Warhammer 40,000 takes place in the 41st millennium, an incredible 38,000 years in the future in an alternate universe. Now, it is an era of endless warfare where major interstellar factions of all varieties fight each other for the elusive control of the galaxy. However, many of the origins of this grimdark era happen 10,000 years prior in universe, in the 31st millennium, when the godlike Emperor of Mankind set forth from Terra in a great crusade to unite the galaxy under his control and to wipe out all dissidents and enemies that he could not tolerate. However, he was in the end betrayed by his greatest son, Horus Lupercal, in a conflict that would become known as the Horus Heresy. Roboute Guilliman was the Emperor's 13th son, and it is he who took command of the Imperium after the defeat of Horus and the Emperor's internment into the Golden Throne. One of his many decisions during this time was to take Belisarius Cawl under his confidence and charge him with improving on the Emperor's most renowned project, the gene templates of the Adeptus Astartes and the Primarchs, and to create new and powerful warriors who could bear new and powerful arms and armaments. Sadly, Gilliman never saw these plans come to fruition, since he was laid low some years later by the poisoned blade of one of his own traitor's brothers and spent the next 10,000 years in stasis. Now, Cawl, however, kept working in secret throughout those long millennia, and when Gilliman was awakened at the close of the 41st millennium, the Archmagus brought forth legions of new space marines, the Primaris, who were taller, faster, tougher, and deadlier than the Firstborn. Armed with new weapons, new armor, new vehicles, and new doctrines, these Primaris were unleashed upon the sundered galaxy in another grand conflict that Gilliman called the Indomitus Crusade. It was thanks to these legions of Primaris, created with improved gene seed techniques that had seemingly eliminated many of the flaws of the first one, that hundreds of chapters across the Imperium were given life. Not the least among them were the Great Nine of the first founding. Not only that, however, Gilliman and Cawl together resurrected many dead chapters and created entirely new ones to hold the horrors of a divided galaxy at bay. It was a massive undertaking that is still progressing today. Over 100 years of the Indomitus Crusade have come and gone, and the survival of the Imperium still hangs by a thread, as it has ever for the last 10,000 years. But enough of the background. We're not here to talk about the history per se, but what the Primaris represented for this bold new era of the Adeptus Astartes. And that, dear viewer, is where things become dark and murky, as we are going to see after this jump. And now, we come to the past. The past as in what the launch of 8th edition Primaris was like, and through on to the 9th edition. So when the Primaris range debuted in June 2017 for 8th edition Warhammer, what we got was a range of Marine and almost Spartan armor. Now, that is not to say that they were entirely dissimilar from what the basic Firstborn kits are like, but, they bore little to no decorations, no frills and no bells and whistles, except for a few iconographies on some of the characters, who were themselves quite bland, even the ones that were created for the different chapters, such as Tolmeron for Blood Angels. The sculpts were, on their own, quite modern looking, and they represented a leap forward for miniatures design, compared to the first one especially. But, like myself, many fans were wary of how they represented the eventual death knell for the first one, because the evidence was right in front of our eyes for that. After all, the Primaris were taller, they were faster, tougher, deadlier than the Space Marines we'd come to love over the last 30 years or so. And sure, the designs for the Firstborn had changed so many times in that period of time, but there had never been such a huge technological gap in the lore itself, because an RTB-01 Space Marine is pretty much the same as a Space Marine in Mark 7 or Mark 8 armor. They are Space Marines. They were just Space Marines. But now we had Space Marines and we had Primaris Marines. I was quite hesitant about the range myself when I got back in the hobby in February of 2018. And, as I began to come to grips with what I'd missed over the last 8 or 9 years of being out, there were some things that were like, as a huge fan of Firstborn, I was, it was not a good feeling to see that some things I'd loved about the hobby from the days of fourth edition, fifth edition, that they had gone. And I'm talking strictly in sense of the changing designs and the changing of the models for the units themselves, and a little bit of the lore. Now, sure, Games Workshop did release some specific chapter upgrades for the major chapters, like the Ultramarines, the Blood Angels, and Dark Angels, but that was decidedly it. We went from an era where we saw such incredible stuff like the Blood Angels Tactical Squad kit and other boxes like it, such as for Dark Angels and even for the Black Templars. We came to an era wholly without that in the Primaris range. They did launch Blood Angels Primaris Intercessors kits or Dark Angels Primaris Intercessors kits, but those were just the basic kit with the chapter upgrades for a little bit of an extra cost, which is entirely not the same thing. Even when Space Marines received a new codex in the summer of 2019, and GW launched more upgrade kits for the other codex chapters beside the Ultramarines, such as the White Scars and the Raven Guard, it was still the same old Spartan kits with none of the unique flavor of the many different chapters. Add to that, the Primaris range was clearly designed and implemented to be a replacement of the Firstborn. The Intercessors were the new tactical squads, and the Inceptors were the new Assault Marines. Their Repulsor tank was, for all intents and purposes, a new breed of an overgunned Land Raider, except it had horror capabilities, and as you can see on the picture here, it has so many guns. It was almost obscene the amount of guns that this thing has, and yes, it has always had quite good rules for the last like 6 years. The Impulsor is the new stand-in for the ever-dependable Rhino and the Razorbacks, and so on. No lie, but it did leave a bad taste in the mouth for many, myself included, and it didn't also help that the rules were also better, and slowly the Firstborn were getting edged out of many players' armies. Like if you were to look at a lot of the, a lot of the mainline armies from those days, you'd see that most of the time, the only really Primaris, the non-Primaris units that are being used would be like scouts because of the way the list building worked in 8. And this is something that I experienced myself on a casual level because the cost efficiencies of the units just worked out that way. But anyway, the key thing is that throughout all of 8th edition, GW vacillated on how to properly integrate the Primaris into the Space Marine chapters. For almost 2 years, the Repulsor was the only tank available to the range, since the Impulsor did not arrive until summer of 2019, and even then, it was just a transport, and a small transport at that, equivalent to a Razorback rather than a Rhino. The Inceptors and Aggressors were only available in squads of 3 to 6, unlike every other squad of Space Marines we had ever seen, who were 5 to 10, which has seemed to me to be the oddest decision ever, because even if you look at the Heresy armies, there really aren't any units that are 3 to 6 like that. Most things are 5 to 10, and very, very few units are on a smaller scale as a starting squad strength, and even then, they are like, some really elite units. So it's really not the same comparison. Even when they released the Shadow Spear box set for the new Vigilus campaign in late 2019, and we got some new recon units for the Primaris, such as the infiltrators and the eliminators and the incursors. They weren't actually scout units. They were just the regular Primaris wearing a lighter version of their normal Mark 10 armor. The new codex did give us some firstborn characters who have been reborn as Primaris, such as Corsaro Khan of the White Scars and K1 Strike of the Raven Guard. But there were changes on that front as well. Corsaro Khan now went to battle without a signature bike, a rather egregious oversight for a character belonging to a chapter famed for its mastery of such an instrument of war, and especially because we have had a novel, The Halt for Valdorius, starring Corsaro Khan, where his main method of getting to war is in a bike. He's had a bike since his introduction as a character in fifth edition, I believe, or possibly earlier, but I think he was introduced in fifth edition with the new codex at that point. And it didn't stop there because Shrike, who he thankfully he retained his jump back and his signature lightning claws in his new avatar, and he became a chapter master now. He was pretty much alone as a unit because the only jump troops in the range were suppressors and inceptors. So if you look at it from an aesthetic point of view, it just jumps out. You created a character with a jump pack, a unique jump pack, but he's clearly a jump pack character. It's a different jump pack than what the inceptors use. It's a different one than what the suppressors use, although not too dissimilar, but still it is there. So why do we not have a proper full squad of jump troops? And that really is the crux of why I did not jam fully with the idea of Primaris, even though by that point I had already bought quite a few Primaris units for my Blood Angels, for my Death Watch, and even I had started, excuse me, I'd already started a White Scars army that was going to be all Primaris because, future proofing and all that. But all of this, all these issues, and there's so many more as well. That's the crux of the argument of why GW did a not great job at integrating Primaris fully into the Space Marines range. And next, we're going to talk about the present of the Primaris from just like 2 years ago to where they are right now and where they're going forward immediately. And we're going to talk about that after the jump. So now let's talk about what the future of the Primaris range can be. Something that steps that GW can make for a more cohesive gameplay experience and one that rewards both the lore and the visual aspects of the armies. Imagine, if you will, a new era of Primaris where you do get that unique flavor back. For instance, a Blood Angels Intercessor Squad kit, which it's not just the Intercessor kit with the upgrades, but it's a unique kit that has Blood Angel specific sculpts for the Mark 10 Tacticus armor, in the same vein as the Blood Angels Tactical Squad kit or reflections of the Sanguinary Guard kits and the Death Company kits. And the same then goes for the Space Wolves, for the Ultramarines, and the Dark Angels. And in fact, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities or the realm of expectation to say that they can do the same thing for Raven Guard, Iron Hands, Salamanders, White Scars, because a whole new world opens up for you. And if there is any concern that, stuff is not going to sell, I'm not an expert on the hobby in that aspect, in terms of economics or whatever, or the money side. But I can say, having bought so many Blood Angels kits for my own army over the last few years, I would go out and I would buy this stuff. I want my armies to look visually distinctive. I want to have a great feeling when I'm building them, knowing that I'm building something that's so unique to my experience and to have that be reflected. Imagine also that we get a new wave of chapter upgrades, which provide us with more than a few token conversion bits. For instance, the White Scars upgrade pack has a chapter specific chainsword, What if we instead, or in addition, got a chapter specific power weapon, perhaps a glaive or a spear that you can use either for, say, the blade guard, or you can use them with bikers. It's all about, as I said, that unique chapter flavor. What if you got helmets that have the chapter's unique top knots, such as, that come with the Where's Custodes kit? I've used one of those on one of my own characters for White Scars, a Terminator captain, and it looks amazing. I would love to see that reflected with the official bits. Captain Darnod Lysander of the Imperial Fists is one of the most iconic Terminator character sculpts of the first one. While I would love to see a new Lysander sculpt, because then it's something that I could possibly use for one of my own armies instead of as Imperial Fist, because I don't play Imperial Fist, but it's something we all do. What if they made the critical decision, kill off Lysander in a heroic last stand against an iconic enemy, and we got a new character with a brand new sculpt to take his place? And what if in addition there was a supplementary book launch to mark the event? The first time we have a first one character with rules and models who is retired, failing to pass the Calgarian rites. Calgarian rites are the primarisification of an existing character, or even units and stuff. And Calgar was the first one who went through it, and there are so many others who have all gone through it with pretty much 100% results that we know of. Dante, Mephiston, Ragnar, Korsarkhan, K1 Shrek, they've all made it through. And undoubtedly, there will be others down the line who have as well. I believe Azrael of the Dark Angels has also made it through. Asmodai has made it through. So, it's all up in the air right now. And, there's the issue that if everyone is making through, then who is in opposition? And if we have a character like Lysander, who, it would suck to lose an iconic character, I think it could be valuable to developing the lore to make it much better, because now there is a risk. Sure, the years have passed, the technology has been upgraded, but the key part of Imperial technology throughout has always been sometimes it fails. So we need some of the risk back. And this would be a great opportunity to do a new sculpt and a new character and move forwards. Also, what if we got a new Primaris upgrade kit that has proper Primaris scaled melee weapons like thunder hammers, lightning claws, storm shields, and ranged weapons, bolt pistols, plasma pistols, more. We used to have stuff like that in the old chapter kits, like with the Blood Angels Tactical Squad. All the weapons in that kit, all the weapons were marked in some way with Blood Angels iconography. We need that back. We've lost it. We need that back. Now, the reasons for why Games Workshop launched the Primaris intending to replace Firstborn, there are quite a lot of them, and we can speculate on more besides. But I think the more we focus on that, the more negative it becomes in our mind, and we ourselves as fans need to move past that. I think it is past time for GW to commit to the range, even more than they already have. And, the hobby has grown exponentially in the last few years. And I think it's a great missed opportunity for GW to continue with a stunted, staggered ad hoc release from Primaris. They absolutely can bring back the era of customization and the era of unique flavor. They have taken the first proper steps on that path with the new Deathwing kits for the Inner Circle companions that they are releasing soon for the Dark Angels, with the new Deathwing Terminators, with the new Deathwing Knights. But there's so much more that can be done. Even if it's not just Primaris, you're looking at Chaos. The upcoming Kill Team box, Night Lords versus Mandrakes, it has an upgraded Night Lords upgrade sprue that can fit well with your existing Chaos Legionnaires, and I cannot wait to see it. I think that was a great decision, and it ties into everything that we've been talking about with Primaris, because there are other armies that suffer from the same kind of thing. And, you know, that Chaos kit that's coming up, Night Lords versus Mandrakes, it's the first Chaos Legion upgrade kit since the Chaos refresh of 2019. That's wild. 4 years. More than 4 years. Don't make sense. The Black Templars upgrade box, it's decently comprehensive, but still lacking. Like, I remember the old Dark Angels chapter upgrade box. An amazing box that had unique torsos, legs, even entire power armored bodies, weapons, iconographies, so much more. Like, in comparison to the Black Templars chapter upgrade box, it was a gold mine. We need more of that back. Now, it goes without saying that the Primaris range is here to stay. And to have the kind of longevity that the first one have had for decades, Primaris need to be able to compete on that same level. They kind of don't right now, but they can with enough effort. Putting away my own feelings on the matter of the fate of the firstborn, it's time. I keep repeating myself. It's time for GW to fully commit to Primaris. They cannot continue waiting for years and years to update all these units. Just do it. Big explosion of models, big explosion of units. Yes, I know there are economic concerns in regards to stores, not just GLE stores, but local friendly game stores as well. But I think if it's done in a good way, it can work. But if you're waiting like 10 years to get your Primaris Sanguinary card, that sucks. If you're waiting 5 years after the Deathwing refresh to get a Ravenwing refresh, that sucks. If Space Wolves do not get a refresh for 10 years, that sucks. And that doesn't that tells the players that maybe GW doesn't care. And we know that GW does care. Like, if you look at all the models that are coming out, all the other stuff that's happening, it's amazing work. They're doing amazing work. But at the same time, while we recognize how much of the amazing work they're doing, we can also recognize that more needs to be done and on a bit of a faster time scale. So, anyways, I just imagine, you know, having building a squad of Blood Angels Terminators with stamped chapter iconography, whether it's the assault cannon or the storm bolters or the Parfus. Yes, I can go to the 3D printing route, but I don't want to. It's a hassle. Yes, Blood Angels have their own unique Terminators, but there are assault Terminators only and online only. That's not easy for me to get either. But there's more that can be done. I would love to get Primaris Sanguinary Guard. I would love to get Death Company. I would go out. I would buy 2 boxes of each, and more down the line, because I can always do some kind of kit bashing or conversions. I can remake characters, remake some squads, do different loadouts, and so on and so forth. There's so much that can be done. Making chapter distinct units to give each player's army that extra flavor, it's a huge win in my book. And that's kind of where I want to end this video, with a hopeful message that GW has done decently so far. Have been some missteps in my perspective, but also there's so much more that can be done. We're still at a point where there's so much possibility, and either they can stretch it out for, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, or they can lay the groundwork now and keep building forwards. There's always going to be units that need to be redone. The intercessors can do with an upgrade. Like, yeah, I know the kid's like 6 years old, 7 years old, but it desperately needs a refresh on its own. It has no melee weapons. I think maybe just a chainsword, but like GW can do so much more. I want them to. I want reasons to give my money to GW. GW, if you're listening, I want to give you money. Let me give you the money. Don't make me go outside to 3D printers and deal with, you know, individuals with 3D printers who are doing a bad job or I'm overpaying for some stuff or whatever. I want to give you money. I want to grow the hobby directly with you as part of the larger community. So let's do it. Cheers. Bye.